Welcome to Forever Exile, the Path of Exile podcast. I am Justin, aka Tags.
And I'm Tyler, Wrecker of Days.
In an adjusted office, you are. Episode 146.
Adjusted.
Yeah, you've switched it around. It's very nice.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Needed to officially mount the mic.
Yeah,
My
it's good.
mic has been in a temporary position since episode 1. So,
True. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So, 146 episodes later,
We
figured,
did it.
Okay, I think we're moving along with this. I think this is a pretty permanent thing. Let's keep going.
That's right. Episode 146, Forever Exiled. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us. Big shout out to our Patreons. You guys are awesome. Thank you for supporting the podcast. If you're curious what Patreon gets you access to, it's After Dark, of course. At every tier, you get access to After Dark, which is just our podcast after the podcast, where we continue to jive like two groovy dudes just chatting.
So lame.
Right? That's about it. I think that's pretty much it.
What people say. I mean, that is about as good a marketing as you can get, I think. Oh my goodness, you're intentionally using that mug.
I'll put a picture of it on Discord so people know what Tyler's laughing at. But I just I
my
had my
goodness.
coffee this morning in my Mr. Beefy mug that Tyler, I think, did you get this for like your wedding? Was this a gift to guys? It's in your wedding?
No,
Or just
it
random?
was just because I bought a mug with my picture on it, flexing, and on the back it says Mr. Beefy,
like,
and I gave
Can
it
you
to
see? I don't know if you can see in the picture, but it's actually over time like leaked. Like the red has kind
Faded.
of leaked upwards, but yeah.
London Drugs actually lets you make a lot of really cool custom mugs. Obviously, this one's that's probably like 25 years old.
Man,
that
it's
mug.
old. And you want to know what's annoying is Tyler got tiny mugs. When I went to pour my coffee into it this morning, I was like, damn it. It filled it like to the top and I still had some left. I was like, well, no, I'm sipping the top of it.
So it's me flexing in the picture with clothes on and just being a goober. And on the back, it says Mr. Beefy. And I gave that mug to it cost me like $150. back when $150 was like my wage.
Uh-huh.
And I gave it to like 10 or 12 friends.
I still have
My
mine.
brother-in-law actually just recently gave mine back because it was taking up too much space. And I was like, okay,
Wow.
listen, buddy, you're getting a new one. And, but anyway, but yeah, that was before I was even drinking coffee.
Yep.
So I didn't know about sizes. So I'm looking at them and I'm like, oh, I'll take the cheaper
cheap one,
size.
please. That's right.
Yeah. Nobody drinks coffee. What's going on? Now that's all I drink. Now the doctor says I can't drink anymore.
Anyway,
But anyway, oh my goodness, that made me, you planned that out so well. You made me pee my pants.
I was avoiding
man.
drinking it the whole time leading up to us getting started so that you wouldn't see it.
Well, what do you have in there? It looks like crappy chocolate milk.
No, it's coffee. This is back to my. I'm back to my.
No,
I took
it's
some time
frothy and
off.
stuff. What'd you do?
No, it's my. It's a French black. So I'm back to my French press. This one's a French black coffee.
Love French press. Yeah.
Yeah, it broke though today. It really sucked. The actual French press piece broke. It was the first one I'd ever bought, so I didn't buy like anything super fancy. I thought I'd just try it out, but it's got the the stuff you like to make fun of me for, with the grass-fed butter, MCT oil.
Oh yeah.
And
That's
some
right. The stuff that came through cow poo.
mushroom tinctures. And I took some time off of it. I wasn't drinking coffee for a while, but I started to feel like this week I actually been fighting a bit of a cold. I'm all done it now, but you could hear it on last week when we recorded. I thought it was maybe because I had been
that
out.
was hangover.
No, I thought it
that
was. I don't think it was. I think it was a combination of like the fact that I had been out all night before. I wasn't hungover when we recorded, but I was definitely done from the night before. But I also think I was sick because I started to feel like garbage the next 2 days after that. But yeah, I had gotten away from, I'd been into the intermittent fasting for a long time and I had stopped doing that. So this week I got back into it all and I feel way better. So yeah, but now I got to buy a new French press.
A new Justin, born again.
Just back again.
Hallelujah.
Just back again, Ty. I took a break and now I realized I needed to get back into it because I just wasn't feeling great. I need to feel a little bit better.
I need to make new. Hey, I'm happy for you.
Mm-hmm.
And thanks for the reminder that I need to make new mugs
Oh
once
man,
every
can you
20
imagine
years.
that now? Like
You're
you were so
flabby.
happy.
I was. That picture is me, John, and Brandon at a Mariners game in Seattle. We're walking
You used to
downtown
smile.
Seattle.
Remember?
I do. I also had long hair.
You did. Yeah, I'm gonna put this in Discord so anybody listening, you'll see a picture of this beautiful mug. Anyway, how was your week, bud?
I had a good week. It was really low key. Had a physio appointment. Our like benefits and stuff are kind of sort of good, but kind of sort of not. So we don't get a lot of physio for the family for a year that's covered. But doing some really important physio. And so that's nice to get it done. It's really relaxing. It's nice to get pampered. That's what this kind of physio feels like. It's not like, when I shattered my thumb joints where I'm getting like electrotherapy and it's like, and it's not really comfortable. Well, I mean, I was young then, so I kind of liked it, but I wouldn't like that now. But yeah, no, and then it was a lot of chores, but it's been so nice this week. It's been Josh is playing Formula 1 2022.
Yeah, my
Good
Steam
job,
popped
Josh.
up with that. Yep.
Yeah. And it's been like the high 20s all week, and it's been just a nice low breeze in this high 20s heat all week. So it's been so nice for doing yard work and mowing and everything. It's good. We're going to be getting, hopefully, this coming week. I guess this is next week's news, but it's exciting for me because we don't go out. But hopefully going to go see Thor this coming week. So we're
Christina and I
hoping
saw
to line up a babysitter for that. Did you like it?
It's fine. They're good. They're all fun. Like I don't go into them really knowing much about what's happened in past ones and where does it line up. That's not me. It was fun. It was fun.
Cool.
Yep.
We normally wait until they're out on Disney Plus, but with Marvel's kind of changed their lineup this year. And so some of their movies are coming out in the fall. They're not just doing like the smashing the 3 big ones in the spring like they normally do. So this is the last theatrical release for like 6 months until November or something like that. And so we're like, you know what? Let's just see it in theater. Then we don't have to worry about spoilers for the next 2 months while we wait for it to come out on Disney Plus. So hopefully gonna get babysitter stuff lined up. And if it falls through, I'll give you a shout and you can just take the kids all night. Great sleepover.
Perfect.
Did I tell you how? So Justin mentioned at the beginning of the episode that I rearranged my desk office, and it was the desk is in the position that my wife likes. So
that's when you have to do.
But now it's also in a position now that she's happy with where the desk is. I could permanently put up my mic, and I bolted it to the wall just because the stand doesn't really match. I'm using my dad's like nice old
solid desk,
oak desk. Like it's. Once you set it up, you don't take it apart. It's just there for life. The only time it moves out of the room is if the house burns down. So it's here to stay. And so anyway, nothing really clamps to it. Like it's not like any of those thin modern desks. It's old and it's thick. So I had to bolt my mic to the wall. And did I tell you the process that I had to go through?
It was hilarious.
It was supposed to be a 20. All I'm doing, it was. It's supposed to be 20 minutes. I go to Home Depot. I'm only getting 2 screws.
It's 2 bolts,
right?
people.
Because I only need
bolts
2
and
screws.
2 L brackets. And that was a day.
Right. That's it. And I couldn't do it. I pre-drill the hole. I'm feeling all, I know what I'm doing. I could mow my lawn. I could also use drill things.
Tim the Tool Man Taylor.
You betcha. Now these studs, they were they weren't facing me, so they weren't 4 inches wide. They were
that's normal.
1.5 inches, 2 inches wide, but then there were 2 pressed together.
Right.
So I got to be a little extra careful that I'm not drilling right into the gap between them. And I'm going through and I'm like, all right, I pre-drill a hole. All right, that's awesome. And I think it's deep enough. So now I'm like only using a ratchet to put the bolt in, right? Because I don't want to, I don't want too much torque, but it's going in and that's fine, right? This was what my day plan around my concussion stuff. No grocery shopping, no lawn mowing. Like this is where my energy is going into today. So I'm not like a deadbeat later. And all of a sudden the ratchet can't do enough torque to keep getting it into the bolt. And I'm like, what is going on? My ratchet's not strong enough. So then I bring out my drill. I know I need to be careful. I'm going in. It's going in nice and smooth. All of a sudden, bah, snap it. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I only bought 2 bolts and I needed 2 bolts and I got to go back to Home Depot. I know what the issue is, right? There was a metal plate that was holding the 2 beams together. So I go and I change where the hole is. I make sure the thing can go. I use the drill again. Bah, snap. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I should have bought like 20 bolts because this is going to take forever. And now because like I can't get the broken bolt out of the wall, it's stuck in there. So now I'm having to change the altitude of where the mic is and retest it based on where the other stupid spinny. Anyway, it was like an all-day process. I went to Home Depot like 8 times. My like $5 L brackets ended up costing me like $25 to try and get all this stupid. Anyway,
you should just call me.
And at the end of the day, it looks absolutely ridiculous.
It works
because I have like, I don't know, a centimeter stack of paper in there just to make sure that the L brackets aren't bending because I put the long. Anyway, shut up. It was a long process. It is rock solid now, and we're not moving this desk. Yeah, that's right, in the camera. But when I showed you, my wall That whole beam is got like
just put a picture up or something. Your kids.
It's like ant. Yeah, that's right. It's like ant holes or something. My whole wall's littered with holes now because of my escapades attempting to know what I was doing, which I did. I don't know what was going on.
Yeah.
So that was exciting, and it's nice to actually have a permanent place.
Yeah.
And I can also take note there. Have you ever seen Altered Carbon?
Yes. I actually know one of the actors, but yes, I have. I've watched the first 2 seasons. Yeah.
Well, there's only 2.
Yeah. Well, they're supposed to be coming out with a 3rd. There was talk of it, but I never kept up with it after I finished the 2 seasons. I liked it though. Did you like it?
I loved it. Yeah. I've always saw it and it was always recommended, but Netflix actually has really bad marketing. Like when I see a trailer for a Netflix original, I'm like, Like I have to actually read what the synopsis is because their trailers to me they're not meant for me.
Okay.
Like they show me stuff that just makes it look so stupid.
Oh.
And Altered Carbon always looked so dumb, but it kept showing up for me with like how their algorithms work. And eventually I'm like, okay, let's click on it. Anthony Mackie's face is up there all the time. So I click and I watch the first episode and I'm like,
it for me.
I'm like, okay, you know, like this is really sci-fi. And there's a couple actors in here that are either really bad or they're directed to be bad. But then as I got into episode 2, I couldn't stop. So thank goodness it wasn't those, oh my goodness, just wait till season 38.
No, it took me like 2 episodes, I think, as well to get into it. And
the first episode,
really
I almost turned it off. But episode 2, I watched all 18 episodes of both seasons. Like there's 18 episodes in total. And I watched them maybe in 6 days.
Yeah, it's really good.
It was, I actually really liked the world, and they really did a great job at, there weren't, normally when people make a sci-fi world and then they try and make an individual story within that sci-fi world, there's so many stupid loopholes that just don't exist. They have a cool story, they have a cool world, they just don't coexist well together. Whoever wrote this or then did the screenplay for this really nailed it. Like there's no loopholes, you really get into the world. So sort of discovered it. Netflix fault that it took me 4 years to get there, but they said they canceled season 3 like in 2020. They said they didn't have enough numbers for it. Yeah, which is too bad because it was all on their marketing team. The story's fine.
Yeah, I agree.
My wife wanted me to bring this up, but I wouldn't deny her this. Justin, have you seen the trailer for PowerWash Simulator yet?
No. Is this a game? I mean, so far I
strongly
sold,
suggest. So let's just cut from here. You watch it, and then you can tell me about your week. But I would like you to watch
Simulator?
PowerWash Simulator, please.
And the trailer for it.
Yep.
Is there an actual trailer for it? PowerWash Simulator Early Access Launch Trailer?
Sure.
Okay, I'm clicking it right now. Oh, hold on. I'm going to watch the Xbox one. Well, so first off, I love that you can power wash with friends.
Power washing driveways.
Like a
fire trucks.
A mini putt place. The fire trucks was the first time you got to see 2 buddies, doing it. So I will say I would never play it because that just looks a little boring. But
I don't believe that at all, Mr.
I love
Farming Simulator.
Power washing. I actually myself love it. And I could watch videos of people power washing because there's something I don't know what it is. It's relaxing to see the clean lines as they're. It's the same with the farming that I like watching, where somebody's like doing it. I don't know. There's something about these like clean lines, and I don't think I could play the game because it looks like the nozzle is like itty bitty, and the areas they're cleaning are pretty big. So it was the
maybe
same
this
for me.
will be the first time that I can buy you a birthday gift because you have everything you need. I have no idea what to ever get you, and we don't do birthday gifts in our group anyway.
No, high fives. That's all we need.
That might be something.
I don't think I
knew you loved your power washing.
I don't think I would play it. I do love power washing, and did I ever tell you that we bought one of the rotary adapters you can put onto a power washer? So it's a circle, and inside it's got multiple spinning nozzles, and you hook it up to your power washer. So then when you're power washing, it's a whole circle that's cleaning the ground.
Does this sound like D&D to you? Does this sound like D&D? Apparently, suspected spam callers bypass
D&D?
Do not disturb.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
Huh.
Thanks, Motorola. Go ahead.
So anyway, Yeah, we have a whole big circle thing. But yeah, the power washing, I love power washing, but I don't think it was the same for the what was the game where you could mow grasses and stuff. I wouldn't do it in a game, I don't think, because
I think you'll surprise
I want to feel
yourself.
the gun in my hand as I'm power washing. I don't want to move my mouse. It's not the same.
Of course not.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
How was your week?
It was good, but I felt like crap for the better half of the week. So drugged myself up quite a bit. It was awesome, busy with work, and we played Age of Empires 4 on Monday, and that was a lot of fun. Like we haven't played it in forever.
Yes, it was.
And it was a ton of fun. And then I was just curious. I started watching some of the people that play it at like the competitive level. They play just like us. Oh my God. I was like, this one guy was so like he had gotten to the Imperial Age in like 12 minutes. Like that's the final 4. I was like, man, I got like 8 villagers by that point. Like what? Just the way they click is crazy. I would never want to play at a competitive level because I'd be like, can we just peace? Like I'm going to turtle. Don't touch my wall, please. Leave me alone for a little bit. But it was really fun to watch them play it because it's just such a different way to play. But yeah, no, Age of Empires 4 was a ton of fun to play on Monday. And then I don't think we finished watching The Good Place. It's a TV show we were watching on Netflix. It's got 4 seasons, I think.
Okay.
So we finished watching that, and that's about it. It was a good week. It's fine. Yeah.
Cool.
Let's get into PoE so that the random one-off doesn't get mad at us for talking about. Here's the thing. Tyler and I started this podcast 146 episodes ago. I was thinking about this today while I was making my coffee. If we didn't have this part of the podcast where we got to talk to each other, I don't think we would have lasted 146 episodes. We made it with the purpose of catching up and then talking the game we like. And
this is our weekly hangout.
Yeah.
We couldn't because we don't get to see each other throughout the week. So this is us catching up.
That's right. Josh is messaging me about settings for the wheel.
He's gonna have to wait, buddy.
That's what I said. Our buddy Josh got the wheel for F122, and he got for PC, which excites me a great deal because now I can play with someone else while I wait for cross-platform to come. So, but anyway, yeah. So it's a good chance for us to catch up, and then we always talk Path of Exile. I remember somebody saying like, "Can you put a marker in for?" I was like, "No, this is not." Listen, YouTube is an afterthought. We love you listening on YouTube. But you're an afterthought. We made a podcast that's audio based, and that was the focus. And you can't do timestamps on a podcast because thankfully that's not a thing. I was joking. I was laughing to myself thinking like, maybe I should add a little thing that at the very beginning of each episode says, like if you're a dick and don't want to hear about our personal lives, just jump to and leave a blank space. And then when I edit it, I'll add like 16 minutes, but I don't want to. So anyway,
funny.
Thanks for hanging out with us so far. Let's talk about Path of Exile. There's not a ton that happened this week, but there were some like announcements, at least some bigger announcements.
Well, it's fun seeing the highlights in the Gauntlet, which is a very different Gauntlet experience this time around. I got definitely a lot more boss kills, so it was cool seeing the highlight. I
got a message this week regarding the Gauntlet, and I'm going to send you. No, I'm not going to send you a link because it doesn't make sense to people that are listening. But if you go to PoE. Was it PoE-racing, I think is what they all use, PoE-racing.com. Which, is this spam calls? Ty,
yes.
Trying to record a podcast. God.
It's on D&D.
If you go to PoE-racing.com and you look up the Gauntlet, Zizzarin's Gauntlet, and then you sort by slayers, top slayers, currently in place, of total ranks 1,101 place is a character named Tag's Gauntlet. And that is Soja, who used my name, and he said it worked. He got actually some really good drops quite early on.
Why did he use your name?
RNG, because obviously I pay GGG to give me good drops as long as the name Tags is in it. And so he decided to use Tag's Gauntlet as his name. And sure enough, he's actually level 86 in the Gauntlet, which is good. Yes. So anyway, I'm now officially in the Gauntlet, one of the top slayers. And I was laughing
just
to
got
him.
A bot doing it.
He said, he was like, somebody might think it was you. I was like, if anybody has ever heard me speak ever, they know that's not me. Like it would, you
That's
just know I'm not in there. But yeah, anyway, I didn't watch the highlights, but I assume it was like lots of deaths, probably.
Well, it was fun. Some successes, some knots. So it was good. Can you hear my dog scratching?
No,
Okay,
it's good.
There was also kind of a neat thing. I copied and pasted the wrong bit. There wasn't a link. I copied the title. Unfortunately, I thought I would copy the link. So my apologies. So I can't let you see it, get you to click on it. But there was a GGG employee posted on Reddit a parody of the Chris Wilson interview that he did. But they used an AI replica of Chris Wilson instead.
Okay.
It kind of like, so you know how they sometimes, I forget what the method is, but they sometimes do their patch notes and run it through some sort of
Yeah. Can't remember what they call it.
I forget what it's called.
Mhm.
But anyway, and then it all comes out all funky and it's a fun tease for people, right? But then it's also just, sorry, I got to deal with my dog.
Yep.
Anyway, sorry for the interruption. She was scratching a lot. But anyway, no, this was kind of neat. It was just a parody interview of an AI replica of Chris Wilson answering these questions. And so it was kind of funny to see the responses. I like the fun things they do for us and just post it. So that was fun. Sorry, I screwed up the link so you can't read it.
I was wondering because I read your note and I was like, okay, that sounds cool. This was posted by someone from GGG?
Yep.
Oh, cool.
Yep. So a little bit of free time. But besides that, crazy slow week. Expansion timeline within the week. They announced last week that 3.19. That's right. Yeah, 3.19 was supposed to show up at a certain time. They've taken that extra week buffer for the reasons that they mentioned or didn't mention, and so 3.19 is now expected to be revealed on the 11th ish and to be released on the 19th ish, which is great. Fantastic.
Yeah, I don't understand why they go with the issues. Like, why not just wait until you have a confirmed one? No, it doesn't actually matter to me. I know I saw some people in Discord that were talking about, because there are people that take time off, so they plan around it. That's obviously not myself or you, but it's weird. Why not just wait a little bit until you know for sure? Like, I don't even think they necessarily needed to do the last post, or maybe just say like, hey, in August at some point, to be announced or something. It just seems weird that they're picking dates and then being like, not yet. And then when they come out with this one, it's still not even like okay, here's the dates. It's around this date. So I don't understand what the reason for that is, but it's cool. At least we know it's coming. Works out well for me because I didn't want it to come out too early anyway in August. So
August is a busy month for me, so I forget what my timelines are, but we're going to be going camping and we're going into the interior, so we'll have to see. Might miss it, but that's fine. But yeah, and then I forget if it was this week or last week, but Recombinators, they're staying in the game for standard, but there's no extra drops, so eventually they'll just be used up and disappear.
Well, because Sentinel's not going core, and we've talked about this before too, whether or not Sentinel.
Oh, sorry, that's a different post. Yeah, so they posted that Sentinel is not going core.
Right.
It may in the future, but it's not in the talks now. But they did really like the league and what it brought to the game.
We talked about this a while ago, and I remember saying I didn't think it was going to go core because it was way too strong. And it doesn't surprise me. I know I liked it. I really, really liked it, but it was crazy, crazy strong. And the fact that they're this makes sense for why Recombinators apparently have just skyrocketed in price, because they won't be dropping anymore, and your only way to get them would have been to be in the league and collecting them. So if you wanted to take them or the gear created into standard, you're going to need to buy them. So apparently they're very expensive to purchase Recombinators right now. It doesn't surprise me though. I hope it does come back. It's crazy to me that they put that much effort. They built this really cool controller. They did something new with a tree where you can change it as you go and you're not committed to it, and you can restructure it at any point with the Sentinel controller. I loved all that. It's crazy to me that gets lost, because it is quite a bit of work and it looks so good, but it was way, way, way too strong, which I liked, but yeah.
I too, I think they're too strong for the game. I think the ability to just mix and match that type of stuff, it would have to be an extremely rare thing. Like mirrors are the rarest drop in the game, and you have to have an already relatively perfect item to want to use a mirror. You know what I mean? Unless you're using it for trade, but I always think of currency in their solo self-found state. To me, something like a Recombinator is, to me, it's almost that strong. The amount of stuff that people come up with at the current drop rate is insane.
Yeah, but
Like,
you have to remember
there's so
too,
much-
you risk losing the item. Like I get that people say that the Recombinator is it's so good, but you also have to have gotten lucky with it because you have a chance of wrecking the item.
Yeah, but that only matters to casual players. People that are playing a lot, those items that they're trying to recombinate aren't rare. They're not scared because they have a whole bunch of other items that are good. Like, because of harvest and all the other mechanics, the amount of perfect items that there are out there, it's not.
Sometimes that's not a
hard to
bad
get.
thing to the casual player because that means that the cost for me, if I'm in a trade league to purchase that stuff, comes down. If more people who are playing it lots are being able to create them, the cost for me as a casual player who maybe couldn't create it decreases. It allows me into that world of some of those recombinated items. But also, like I did play a lot this league, but I'm certainly not a 8 hours a day every single day. I was like an 8 hours, 9 hours a week, somewhere in that range. Probably 8 to 10 hours a week is what I was playing, maybe a little bit more. I have stacks of recombinators. I just never used them, but it did give you the ability to at least try. And I liked the fact that there was this risk that if I threw two together, it could wreck the item and I'd have to try again. I do understand what you're saying because people who played a lot, I remember talking to, I wish I could remember who it was, who had tabs full of gear they would eventually start to recombinate. They basically, wands would drop with a +1 or amulets would drop with a +1. They'd throw them in there till they had a couple that they wanted to do it. I don't know that that's bad. The one thing I do like about it, like as much as I say, it doesn't surprise me Sentinel's not going core. It doesn't surprise me at all. I'd much rather that than have to go do harvest. I hate harvest. Hate it. When we played our hardcore league, I had to do harvest or the private league, because that's one of the best ways to get crafts that you need onto an item. So recombinators were kind of fun because it gave me another way to do something or take a chance on something than harvest.
Sure.
But yeah, I wish recombinators stayed, and then because I do understand the Sentinels, they were really strong, even though I love them. But I found recombinators were kind of fun. They said they're going to change their function if they do come back.
Well, so here's my thing. I don't have a problem with recombinators, but to paraphrase kind of GGG's mentality on their current, like Chris has said, itemization is not the way that it wants to be. He said that in the Josh Hayes interview, right? Is it Josh Hayes? Yeah,
sure.
But they've also said in the past, like they want perfect items to be like non-existent and extremely rare. But the amount, how easy it is to get an extremely powerful, well-rolled weapon that's T1, T2s with all mods that are relevant to you. I see those posted all the time. So in the current state of the game, to me, recombinators are just absolutely absurd. If itemization, if it was so much harder to get that great item, I think recombinators have a great place in the game. Have a fantastic drop rate for recombinators if the majority of your gear that's dropping, that you're finding, that you're even capable of creating, like, before the harvest days when all you had was a crafting bench and all it did was fill in the gaps of a previously dropped item. That's the state of the game that recombinators to me are very good for. Because it's still that high risk, high reward, but getting that great item that you want to risk is so much more risky because the chances of you replacing that are next to nothing.
But don't you think it already is like that for you or myself? Like if we get...
For me, yes.
Well, even for myself, if I had to, I never used a recombinator and I even started keeping a tab trying to do it. It just wasn't my thing, but I love the idea of them. But I don't get I don't know. It's a tough mindset because I want the ability to get an item that I think is amazing without always feeling like I have to go to the trade website. And I do play trade for that reason. You and I talked about this. I don't remember if it was in After Dark or a main episode. I like the trade league because it gives me the option at least to do something. If I want to increase my power, I don't feel like I'm stuck in a solo self-found environment and I can go and get something. But it's so much more rewarding when you do it. When you get to either combine an item to create it or drop it. The problem is it's not going to drop. It's not going to drop. Sure. It's just not. So now I feel like I'm kind of forced to go the route, especially in the private league. I was forced to go the route of harvest and essences, which I don't mind actually. I don't mind essences because that's a randomization. I'm hoping I hit something. Same with fossil crafting. Like you're getting like
It's still
one part,
actually yeah.
Right. One part is guaranteed, but the rest is risky. Harvest is not that at all. It really isn't. Harvest is very deterministic if you have the crafts ready to go. I don't understand how is Recombinator so much more dangerous to their game than something like Harvest is.
Well, I think it's because of the combination of all of it, right? And I think the hard thing that they have to waver is, remember back in the day when, I mean, what was this? Maybe a year ago now, when there was a huge talk about GGG rebalancing the game for the top 1% as opposed to the bottom 99%. And outside of how irrelevant that is, you have to balance because they have a public trade, you have to balance the game for the people that can play 8 hours a day. You have to.
Yeah, but you never can. You can never find a balance between them and us. There's just,
well, that's right. So you have to make sure that because they have those items in the market. And if they're playing a ton, and then like those items still trickle down, and there's
right.
No, but the point is that because this is a game where you can invest that much time over and over and over, and then you have the public trade, you have to base your decisions around that. And I think having recombinators around what you can buy in trade, but there are a lot of people in this game, in this community, that can play that much. And so the trade market is just inundated with really, really good gear that normally you shouldn't be able to improve upon, and recombinators that you do that. So I think there's just that hard balance. I don't have it. Like, I think it's wise of them to take recombinators out, not for players like me, but because of what it does to the market. The amount of items that would be in the market would just be insane.
Yeah. In the end, I'm fine with it. I just feel like it gave people who played less a little bit more chance to have some of those really strong items. And
totally, when
you're playing at a more casual level, those changes are a big deal, much more so than to somebody who's playing a lot. So if you can have the market with more of them in there, or even giving a solo self-found person more control over potentially getting that type of item they want, I don't actually see the downside to that. In the end, it's their thing, and we've talked about this before. We can say whatever we want. We know they're not doing something to screw their game over. Who knows what's coming out with 3.19? We have no idea what they're going to be reworking with other leagues, so it could be we can't have it interacting with something else that's coming out. You never know what it's going to be. I don't think it's bad to increase the strength of someone who plays less, because I actually think the majority of people that play Path of Exile don't play huge hours every single day all through the week. So it's never something you can ever balance evenly around. I understand that, but I don't mind the idea of stuff being able to trickle down to people who play a little less casually, and giving them some sort of option. So it'll be interesting to see what 3.19 holds. But I do understand Sentinel coming out, even though I loved it. The thing that sucks about them taking it out is just it seemed like it was such a big amount of work. Like adding that whole controller tree. Maybe they're just going to move that tech to the normal tree, and that's never going to happen. But
well, I think part of the issue with how the community functions is there's a lot of copying, right? And I think it's because people really want to be successful in the game, and it's a complicated game to learn on your own. And so a lot of the times people, they just want to take a build, experience the game, experience it well, but then they obviously don't want to backtrack and learn the game for themselves and barely make it to yellow maps as they learn how this mechanic works, or this mechanic works, or these types of skills, or this type of ascendancy. And so there's a lot of, okay, well, these streamers, these are builds that they play and they crush the game. And so you take 600 skills, you funnel them into 10, and that's it. And so there's not really, and I think a lot of that comes from people's desire to be successful from other people's builds as opposed to experiencing it yourself. I think most people, when they come into the game, when they see that passive tree for the first time, their mind explodes and then they stay. That's the theory crafter in them. They want to experience it. They want to figure all that stuff out. But then the game doesn't give them almost any information to help them succeed. And that is a very long road to get to be successful when the game doesn't give you so much basic information. And so when you're funneling all into, okay, well, everybody wants these same 10 builds or these same 10 skills because that's what the people are playing, because I don't have the time to learn this. All of a sudden you're in that circumstance where people are always wanting the same things, and it's there, but you have all these people with these extremely successful builds, even though they're throwing their theory crafting side away from them. Sure, there's still a lot of people that understand the game well, but they've been around for a long time now. So it's kind of like that hard thing of this is what the game gives you. So this is what the community's like. And GGG's kind of in that limbo state of, in my opinion anyway, and I'm very naive to how they function, but in that state of, okay, this is how the community functions. This is how our skills are used. These are the decisions we have to make until PoE 2.
I
kind of think it's a big global. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I feel like the days of picking up a game and, slogging through it and figuring it out, I think they're kind of gone with the accessibility on the internet, with YouTube, with Twitch. I think a lot of players now pick up a game and then find something online that either guides them or tells them what's the strongest or how to be the best. I think there's less of people going into a game now and going, there's no outside influence, let me just figure it out. I think that's very, very, very gone. I think there's very few people now that do that.
I think you're in a culture that's very familiar with that. But if I was to introduce Path of Exile to anybody that I was hanging out with, like when I'm picking up the kids from school, any of our friends, I can't think of one person that would be like, oh, cool, let me look this up before I play it. They're going to load it up, see if they like it, and that's it. Right. And if they love the theory crafting option, they're going to try and figure it out for themselves. I think that's just there's a culture there that
I think maybe somebody might try, but I think that people are quick to turn to the internet now to find something that's stronger. I'm not saying that's bad. I've talked about that for new players. I actually think following a guide's a great idea because it does let you experience some of the game. I think Path of Exile is a very hard game to get into and just theory craft right off the bat because you don't know what the hell's happening.
Agree.
You have no idea what mechanics work with what, how skills interact with others. And you talked about it. It's not like the game really walks you through that too much.
No. And I do like that about the game, that it does take a long time to be successful, but it is missing so much very basic information to functionalities of certain mechanics that you have to go online for the basics. And to me, that doesn't make sense. But either way, all I'm saying is that funnels people to taking all these skills and it's like, okay, now we're just going to follow this because I'd rather just have a successful build. I'd rather do this. I'd rather be, and so to me in that kind of world, Recombinators are just a scary thing. But
I think that will always be the case though. Sorry, that will always be the case though. Regardless of whether you get rid of Recombinators or not, that will always be the case. People will continue to watch the streamer who's doing lots, to watch the YouTube video or whatever it is on a guide and go, nothing's going to ever change that. That's just the way that the world works now.
And to an extent, I think like the console world's a very different world. Console people sit down, like for example, you look at Game Pass. Okay, here's a bunch of games that you get for free. Just sit down, load one up, start playing. And that with the people that play console and have that console mentality, they're not attempting to go online right off the bat and figure things out.
I think they are.
So I think
a lot are different than how you think.
Well, I think it's the same back to you as well. Like I don't think there's as many. I know there's a lot of people that are online right off the bat, but there's also a lot of people that aren't. I think it's like, no, I'm not saying the stats of the people that are like that are 50-50, but I think you do have to consider both groups. And especially when you are making a game for console. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, I don't know what the actual answer is, and without seeing numbers, it's hard to say. And because unfortunately, console doesn't have stuff like PoE Ninja. But if you use that, and I think it correlates across platforms, whether it's PC or PlayStation or Xbox or whatever, when you have just out of a quick look on the normal Sentinel, not hardcore, not solo self-found, just the trade normal league, when you have the top. How many classes are there in total? It's like 6, 9. No. Sorry, ascendancies. There's
19.
19. When you have 2, 4, 6 ascendancies taking up the top 30, 40, 50, 60, 70%, 72%. That's because people go online. That's not because they opened the game up and thought, oh, this is the direction I should go. So, and I would bet if you could see numbers for console, it would probably be similar. So, I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying it's bad at all, but I don't think that you ever get away from that. I think people see what is strong, what's going to let me experience the end game. And Path of Exile, without spending a lot of time, is a very difficult game to fully grasp, to try and build your own build. And especially if you're not the person who's fine with it failing, because you can fail in Path of Exile and it's mostly a start over scenario when that happens.
Yeah, I do all the time. But you know what? And this has nothing to do now with Sentinel going core, but when you have those ascendancies at the top, let me give you an example. And this is kind of the negative consequence of constant change for the sake of change, right? Like I'm a fan of the game staying the same. If things are balanced, don't change them. Let people's monotony of a certain class be their motivation to try a different class. Don't try and beef it up if it's fine. You know what I mean? Now, that's not the case in this specific circumstance, but I'm not a fan of change for change. Let the league be the change, but if the core game's fine, if we leave it be. Chieftain is it Chieftain or Chieftain?
Chieftain.
Okay. Chieftain is a fantastic ascendancy for Righteous Fire. It is tanky. It gives good damage. It has a lot of. It's very well rounded, and it's outside of being a primary melee class. It's really easy to gear, especially while you're leveling. It's so fantastic. But I'm an absolute idiot in the community for having a Righteous Fire character as Chieftain because it's not Inquisitor.
Yeah, and that's one thing that really sucks about it is that you kind of when the community gets that way, you kind of kill, I don't know, the sort of the spirit of Path of Exile, which is try it out, see what you think.
Right.
But like I said, I think it was so different. If you go back far enough to, I remember like closed beta times and even during open beta, there wasn't a direction. There wasn't like here's a guide, here's what you do. But the game was like a quarter of the size, maybe even like a tenth of the size. It was so much easier to like, you could figure it out. You weren't dealing with, because there weren't leagues at that time, right? So you didn't have these quarterly changes or like, every 3 months you're going to see something shift quite a bit. So I think you are right. It does make it hard when you have these shifts, but I do think the idea of, and we've kind of gone on a total beeline, which is fine. I think the days of where people just pick up the game and figure it out, I just don't think that's the majority of players. I think it's fun if you do it, but I think, I mean, you and I have talked about this in the past, and this is probably before podcast time. We used to like create a character and just go.
That's the way.
Let's just figure it out. Let's just go as we go along. Oh, it's not really. I mean, you got PoE Planner, you got PoE, whatever the other one, the Path of Building, the one that everybody but you uses. It's not so much anymore. Just like, let's start the game up and let's play. It kind of like, I remember we used to laugh because you'd be like, what? I can't start a new character yet.
Yeah, that's right. Well, no, and I am like that with Path of Exile, but I could load, the first time I played Path of Exile, I could load it and start figuring things out.
Yeah.
But like when I load with Elden Ring, I'm not going online to see what stuff is. I'm playing.
No. Yep.
I'm playing. And then it's going to be
the same way.
thing.
I'm not saying I'm like that. I'm just saying I think the majority of people turn to the internet relatively quickly. And that's why you see it was actually 77%. In the top 6
for 6 out of 19.
6 out of 19, 77%.
It is 6 plus 1, right? Like there's 6 classes plus the ascendant,
2,
so that's
4,
18
6,
plus
8,
1.
10, 12, 14, 16, 19. So
what are the top 6?
Inquisitor, Occultist, Ascendant, Necromancer.
Hang on. Too fast.
Inquisitor, Occultist.
Occult. Oh,
Ascendant.
I love Occultist. I'm disappointed that's so popular. I love Occultist.
Ascendant.
Suck it, Justin.
Necromancer.
She's awesome. Necro, love it.
Deadeye, and Champion.
What's a Deadeye? Oh, is that the bow and arrow one?
Yeah, and a lot of people are doing that with some of the Magic Find stuff.
What was after Deadeye?
Champion. And then it takes a sharp drop after that, after Champion. And then even more so, it like I really like stats like this, but even more so, 1, 2, 3 skills are being used in the, what is that? 24, 34, 44% of the, and these are top 100. These are people who like whatever the number is, right? This is not the whole league. This is however many people have made it up to 100. So I understand it's not a full representation of the entire league because PoE Ninja doesn't show you every single character. It's like the top however many. I don't remember how many it is. But 44% of them are using 3 skills: Righteous Fire, Fire Trap, and Lightning Strike. So again, I just think a lot of people do go the direction of the internet. But I do understand, just so nobody goes on whatever YouTube and starts yelling. I know that PoE Ninja is a smaller representation of the entire league. It's not the entire league, but it's the only thing we have stat wise to look at. So that's why I'm using it. Anyway,
I hope they come out with some stats soon. Hopefully it's like, I like having those leaguely stats where they say like, this is how many people are playing these classes and these skills and these.
I would love for them to include in those stats how, like, where does the majority of their player base fall in, like, maybe not weekly time on, but even like league. Like, how many people spent X amount of hours roughly in the league, and
that'd be cool.
It would be kind of interesting to see where do the majority of their players fall. But yeah,
cool.
Anyway, sorry, what were we talking about? That was it for this week in
Filaments
PoE.
was one.
Oh,
no,
filaments,
I want to talk filaments. Filaments. I haven't really seen many people mention filaments. I probably just have missed it, but that to me was the most exciting part about Sentinel. When I think about, okay, well, here's a league, sweet. Right away, I'm going like, okay, what's going core? Is anything going core? I hope this doesn't go core. I hope this does go core. Filaments? Oh my goodness. Imagine, like, they obviously didn't specifically say anything about it, but wouldn't that be awesome if in 3.19 you could just start planning your tree?
Planning, sure. Planning would be great.
Well, that's what filaments is.
Right, but you could change them. You could take them out at any point, and you wouldn't have to pay any cost to do that.
Oh yeah, that lack of respect's not going to happen. But I would love for right off the bat. Okay, this is, I know my first 10 levels are going here. Yeah,
as I'm playing, and also leave it auto level my stupid gems like console gets, please, so I don't have to click the tiniest little button in the freaking world.
Justin, that's in the PC version.
They said that they fixed that whole like rearranging that happens. Liars. It still happens. It's so freaking annoying.
That's awesome.
Just put all the ones that need to level up at the top. But
Justin, they have the auto leveling on PC.
Nah, I'm not playing with a controller. Get out of here.
Do it. Nope. So anyway, no, that'd be awesome if you could do the filament all the way up to, maybe your first mastery. Then of course you leave it because who knows how that's going to work. So you just leave it. And then as soon as you see that skill point up there, like, oh, got a mastery to put on. And then you put your mastery on, and then, all right, here's my next notable. This is the path one. Oh man, if that doesn't make it in 3.19, I'm never playing again.
That's it. Drawing a line. You know what would be cool is if you could actually draw out the filament for your whole tree, and it would follow the line. But anytime you got to, and it would do it automatically. Okay, so it just automatically starts leveling your stuff. But when it got to a Y in the road or a fork in the road, that's when it would say you need to make a decision. Which of these directions do you want to go? And then it would continue to follow that direction or something.
Okay. Or you could put in your own stops.
Oh man, let me program the tree, please.
That's right.
If then
CD / colon.
Yeah.
Commander
Anyway,
Keen.
It'll be interesting to see what 3.19 has. They said August 11th, I think, is when they'll do their announcement.
Ish.
So
yeah.
Cool.
August 11th.
I didn't have much of a PoE week, so how was yours?
You didn't, eh? Well, I am happy to say that I spent a lot of time in PoE this week, which was really nice. Well, technically it was all in my head, but it was fantastic. It was a lot of theory crafting, and I loaded the games up to try a map with this setup or try a couple maps with a different setup. And so there was so here's the deal. Here's the deal. I'm trying to come up with a little bit more. I'm finding that just with, maybe it's just because of like the current state with like the flood and then like all the extra responsibilities I have from how the house has been and how extra we've been. I just haven't had as much time the last 2 leagues to play Path of Exile. I'm hoping that's not permanent, but if it is, I'm coming up with kind of like a version that I can play with co-op and then a version I can play solo, and just my go-to builds. I can memorize them. And as soon as it's kind of like my zombie build, right? Right now I can tweak it. I've got it nailed. It's just, I got it down, and no matter the changes that GG comes out with, I'm like, oh, okay, I can just make this change, and it'll be fine. So I'm trying to come up with 2 builds, one that's good for co-op, and then one that's good for solo. Obviously, the only reason that I'm having 2 is because I love curses, but curses aren't co-op friendly. So that's what's mulling around in my head all the time. And so one thing, and normally some masteries, I don't like any of the options in. For example, the life mastery has some really good pros and cons in the life mastery, but I choose none of them because I don't like any of the cons in the life mastery. But in the flask, I think it was the flask mastery. I typed down life mastery, but that's
what's
not
the con?
Correct.
The only con I can think of is the reduced recovery rate.
Oh, now you have to
get like
bring it up, and
is it percentage increased max life and reduced recovery rate? I feel like that's the only con.
Oh, shush.
And I still think that one's still worth it.
All right, life mastery. Increased maximum life, but
Right.
reduced life recovery rate. I don't like that one.
I still think that one's worth it, but yeah.
2% life regen when moving. I stand still just as much as I move. So I like
don't
the
use that one.
consistency. Plus 50 to max life is good.
It's a great one early
Plus
on.
50 to max life. Yep. Reduced cost of life skills.
Depends on what you're
Depends, right?
Mhm.
Yep. Increased life recovery rate from flask used when on low life.
playing. I don't like that one.
It's fine, but I don't like the situational ones. And then the other one is vitality has 100% increased mana reservation efficiency, and
That's a
I
good
always
one,
have
too.
that on life. It's on arrogance for me.
Mhm.
All right. But it's the flask mastery. This one I'm not normally on the east side of the tree. But this one just re-clicked, or I re-noticed this one, and I absolutely love it. So remember when I used to play with 4 life flasks? That was before the flask items that came out. What are they called?
Instilling and kindling.
Oh, and GGG, instilling orbs. I just absolutely, it's like the best thing you've ever come up with in my life besides the game itself. So good. So this will let me go back to 4 life flasks, but still use, it's like I'm still using my flasks for the same thing that I'd normally be using them for, but I can use all life flasks because right now I have triggers. What are the instilling orbs on a ruby flask? I forget what they're all called now. Sapphire, topaz,
Quartz. I'm sure you use a quartz.
And then a quartz
Right.
flask instead of an amethyst, because the amethyst doesn't give you any bonus. But so the ruby flask triggers when I start burning, the sapphire when I chill / freeze, and then when I get shocked with the topaz. And then I forget what it is that I do on I think the quartz flask doesn't have a trigger.
Just when it's full.
Yeah,
Just
I'm
do it
just
when
like,
it's full or something.
It's my oh my goodness, run away. Right. And so I do that just so that I'm, have some mitigation against the elements that I'm getting ailments against. But this says remove a random non-elemental ailment when you use a life flask.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
It is, because I'm planning on being the raider where I'm going to have 100% immunity to ailments, not immunity, I guess. What's it called? Avoidance of ailments. So I can still actually be on burning ground or something like that, but I'm not actually going to burn or be chilled or be shocked. So I don't have to use my flasks for that. I could have 4 life flasks. And remember, on controller support, there's the smart flask system. So when I'm using a life flask and that life flask is out, I can hit the exact same button and it uses the next life flask over. So it's still just one button for me, and it removes a non-elemental ailment when I use a life flask. So that's awesome. So if I have corrupted blood, or I have this, or I have that, so I don't even have to roll corrupted blood. Wait,
Does corrupted blood?
I wonder if it counts as an ailment. I know bleeding is an ailment. I'd have to look to see what it actually is. Anyway, so I'd plan around that. So that was kind of neat, where I was like, oh my goodness, I'm actually playing the exact same way that I'd normally play, but I have 4 life flasks, or 3 life flasks and 2 oh crap flasks or something. So, but what would my oh crap flask be when I have 100% movement speed and I'm permanently phasing? Right?
Options.
So this is what happens, Justin, when you finally leave Necromancer land. You're all flabbergasted with everything else. So that was really cool. So let's see. So this week was all about like, what skills do I like? That's a big deal that really funnels it down. What skills do I like that match the Raider for co-op and then the Occultist for solo? And I don't want them to be the exact same skills. I do like my variety. I love the theory crafting in this game. That's why I play. And so I'm like going back and forth, and like, so I tested the Reaper, and like with my Necromancer build, I've replaced my zombies with it just to see what survivability would be like. Tested it with a Raider to see what the Reaper survivability would be like with no investment. I played around to find out how Focus Ballista support works. Have you ever played with that? Focus Ballista support is when you have, like, it only fires when you fire and at the target that you're firing at.
Cool.
So I was like, okay, so how does that work? Can I use that same skill that it's linked to? No, I can't. Okay, so now, do I want to use the same skill? Do I want to use a different skill? It fires as often as you do, but it doesn't have the same attack speed that you do. So it's still not firing as often as you do. But I was trying things like Explosive Arrow with that, which is pretty neat, or also with Frenzy. Well, I'm using Frenzy and I'm speeding up as I get all that stuff, and then they're using Explosive Arrow. I was thinking about Elemental Hit with that, because that would be a lot of fun. So yeah, so a lot of fun with that one. I was doing a lot of testing with Vortex cooldowns. I still absolutely love skills that just drop at your feet. I intended on going to traps. I've always loved Fire Trap. My very first tanky build that I ever did. Now this is like 2 point, 7 maybe, but I made was it a champion? I think it was a champion that did fire trap, and that got nothing but horrendous reviews from people. But yeah, it was a super tanky champion that did fire trap, and I've always loved fire trap, but I've never on the deck side of the tree, and so I've never really poured into it. But I wanted to see if there was, and I forgot, if there's an alternate deployment method on controller support for fire trap, so instead of throwing it, it drops it. Because somebody mentioned that was the case, but I haven't tried it out, and I wanted to. But that would be pretty cool. So I was testing out an idea of doing both vortex and fire trap. So I'd only be investing in like damage over time. I wouldn't be investing in just like in cold or fire. It would just be damage over time. So I want to see where those nodes were, and there's really not that many. I think there's 2 on the east side, and then there's 1 on the north side. So anyway, but it was kind of fun to see and check out. And then of course, when you see that the like only damage over time is like so scarce throughout the tree, it's not generic, which is a good thing. Then it's like, okay, sweet. So now do I want to get into cluster jewels? Because I can definitely get some good generic damage in cluster jewels. So, then that encourages me going into cluster jewels. And I'm like, oh, okay, the damage over time, the generic damage that'll work for both vortex and fire trap. Where can I find that? And so, yeah, I had a lot of fun doing that. I was still trying SRS with the Raider, right? I'm really think I'm going to have to.
Or what?
Yeah. And yeah, I'm casting like a billion times a second, which is fantastic, but I don't like SRS. Like it's my old favorite skill, but I don't like it. You know what I mean? And I'm having a hard time not calling it my favorite skill anymore. But it's just not, it's so spread out. And if they don't do crazy damage right off the bat, it takes so long to clear tanky groups. You know what I mean? And then they die. And it's just too spread out. You know what I mean? But I want it to work, but it's not working. Now, again, I'm with the Raider. So my damage investment is minor compared to my survivability investment. So maybe I would enjoy it a lot more as a Necromancer. But if I was Necromancer, I'm 100% always going with zombies. So then I was trying to replace it with Absolution. It's too bright for me, but I did play with Absolution a lot, which seemed really cool. So then I'm wrestling with the idea that I really love minions, but I don't like a lot of the minion skills. But I also love bows and curses and auras and ballistas and stackable damage over time.
Put them all into one.
Real damage over time, Justin. Real damage over time. The stuff where it's like I'll hit somebody and then I can walk away and they're still taking damage. Not the stuff where it's like it's just because they're within a proximity that they take damage. That's not damage over time, even though it is damage over time for Vortex and Righteous Fire.
That's why I like bleed and like Chaos Dot stuff.
Right. Yes. And like poison, like a stackable dot. Like, you're running away, all giggling that you hurt them. So anyway, with all that stuff I'm thinking about, I'm trying to focus without repeating too much within each build. I'm trying to put some of that where I'm really scratching as many itches as possible into 2 builds.
Sweet. And
sounds
then
easy,
who knows
right?
what 319 will change.
That's exactly it. Well, I remember back in 3.0 is when I did my first zombie guide, and it changed a lot each league.
Yep.
And
it was a lot of work.
Wasn't until it wasn't until maybe 3.8 maybe that it was like, all right, I've played with it enough that now this is now remember, like I'm not playing 8 hours a day, and so I can't like fine tune the build within a week, but I've already put in 1 billion hours. Like I'm playing the same 4 to 8 hours a week, and so that's, it takes me a few leagues to really fine tune something. So now it's like that, but now I'm starting that over. So hopefully it nails. But anyway, that's what I love about this game. I can spend more time playing the game outside the game or dwelling on it and thinking of it than I can actually in the game, and I have just as much fun testing it out. I'm not as obviously I want to be successful when I'm playing co-op, but I have no problem coming up with ideas. I'm fine. Like it sucks when you put a ton, like 10, 20 hours into like creating a build in your mind or on PoE Planner, because that's what everybody uses. And it sucks when you put all that time in and you really are excited and then it doesn't work. But it doesn't work on a level that you don't understand. Like, oh shoot, I'm dying too fast. Oh shoot, I'm not doing this. Like there's just too many elements of the build that aren't working. But then you can't decide is this just a crappy rare that's attacking me? Like, is this? So then you try it out in a bit on a bunch. But I don't have to be successful to enjoy my theory crafting. It is kind of sucky when it doesn't work, but it's so rewarding when it's like, oh my goodness, I can take on all this extra content. And so that's what this week's been like for me. It's not really broadcast worthy, but I've been having a ton of fun with it. So
sweet.
Justin, you're not, well, maybe you missed these messages. But I hope things are slowing down for you in real life, because I'm going to have some feedback questions for you coming up.
Oh, yeah.
It's not even patch notes.
Ooh, exciting.
So
we got a couple more weeks still.
Before, get your mind around occultists, get your mind around raider, and here come the questions, Justin. Here come the questions.
Right. Maybe next week. Let's wrap this up. Episode 146. That's a big number. Of Forever Exiled, the Path of Exile podcast. I'm Justin, AK Tags.
Tyler, Wrecker of Days.
Thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. If you're looking for more information, you can find it down below. We got a website, foreverexiled.com. We're on Twitter, foreverexiled82. We have a very fun Discord community. Patreon and other ways to support the podcast are down below or on our website. Patreons will catch you all in After Dark, and everybody else will see you in 147 next week. Bye-bye.
Love ya.